Hey there, Leos. We're going to talk about the eclipse that's coming up September 18th and what this might mean for you. This might be kind of a quick video, since we're mainly really going to be talking about two things here, which would be the sun and the moon. The moon being in Pisces, technically at the time of the eclipse, it'll be in Pisces, but the very last couple degrees of Pisces. So, kind of, you could say that the energies of Aries are going to play into this too, maybe, but maybe just like a little bit after the actual moment of the eclipse. And once the moon kind of moves over here to conjunct the North Node, we're going to start seeing really what this is all about. Because the North Node is all about kind of like destiny and where the universe is sort of pushing you in the first place. And also, we're looking at the sun here, which is conjunct with Lilith down here. It's a little far. It's not quite conjunct with Mercury here, but it's still somewhat close. So yeah, these are the two main energies playing into all of this. And with the sun being in this last decan of Virgo, this third decanate of Virgo, which kind of is associated with Taurus, this is like a long-standing. There's a realization about a long-standing pattern that's been going on in your life, mainly revolving around the way that you choose to express yourself. And with Lilith down here, conjunct the sun in Libra in your third house, this is kind of pointing out, there will be a situation kind of leading up to the days leading up to this eclipse where you will be shown how you might be kind of giving yourself the short end of the stick in certain situations, maybe pretty often, for the sake of diplomacy, for the sake of avoiding conflict, and for the sake of really just not being seen as the bad guy. You with Mars here being in the 12th house right now for Leo and Cancer, it's like you don't want to be seen as like the mean person. You don't want to be seen as the bad guy. You don't want to be seen as difficult. You just want everybody to get along. You want everybody to be friends and for things to be just smooth and easy and not have any conflict. But unfortunately, there may be people in your life who see this, especially with Chiron here in your 10th house, right on top of the midheaven. It's like issues with assertiveness and individuality are kind of apparent on the surface for people to see from a distance. And there are some people who will use that against you, who will say like, oh, well, Leo is always nice. Leo will always just kind of, do whatever. So, we'll just take advantage of them and do whatever we want. They won't say anything anyway. So whatever. Um, and there will be something coming up here where you start to realize that biting your tongue and giving yourself the short end of the stick for the sake of diplomacy and peace is actually not as helpful as you might think it is, because ultimately the universe is putting you in a situation where it's kind of revealing itself to you. Leos, I've been noticing a theme with Leo readings lately where it's like the universe is starting to wink at you a little bit, starting to expose its true nature to you, that the very strange, sort of mystical, magical side of things, which I think excites you. I think you probably have like a unique, interesting way of seeing these sorts of things when it comes. When you have Pallas in the fifth house in Sagittarius, it's like you enjoy and have fun with exploring these sort of esoteric, metaphysical kinds of ideas, and learning about more about how manifestation works and just the nature of reality and all that kind of stuff. And with Neptune being in retrograde, Neptune really being the planet of magic and psychic abilities and imagination and all this kind of stuff, dreams. Well, when Neptune's in retrograde, those things tend to kind of get turned down a little bit, and things can be kind of demystified and start to become a little more clear instead of kind of foggy and confusing. So there's definitely some clarity arising around this time of this eclipse for you. Like I said, mainly about the way that you express yourself and with other people, and kind of giving them too much, not really giving yourself enough credit, not giving yourself um, enough chance to benefit from certain situations where maybe you should be benefiting, but you don't want to upset another certain type of person or another person. So then you're just like, oh, whatever, I'll just let them have it. I know that's nice and all, but it's after a while when you put yourself out like that too many times, it starts to really cause you to build up some resentments, whether you mean to or not. And then eventually, you bottle up these feelings long enough, they kind of explode eventually anyways. So it's kind of better to just get ahead of it before things boil over. And if there are any situations like this where you're noticing that you're really kind of, instead of saying something when you need to say it, you just kind of wait till they turn around and you kind of give them the Leo stare, where you kind of like burn a hole in the back of their head with your eyes, and then they look at you and you're like, oh, what? No, nothing. Everything's fine. Um, um, yeah, if you do find yourself running into those situations, it'd be better to address it head on and just really just don't work. Embrace the potential for some kind of conflict. Not for its own sake, not being brutal for its own sake, but because you can feel when you're kind of selling yourself short, and it doesn't feel good, and it builds up over time. So just when you notice that, if you feel that tendency to be like, I'm just not going to say anything because it's not worth it, it's not worth the trouble. Well, it might actually be worth the trouble. It might actually be necessary to bring this sort of conflict out into the open, so that whoever it is that thinks they can just kind of take advantage of you because you're not going to speak up about it, they need to find out that that's not true. Um, you know, I feel like Leo can roar, but they don't always like to do so. I'm like picturing like an apprehensive lion. Um, so, anyways, yeah, there's definitely like this transformation coming that has to do. It's not just the way you express yourself, but underneath that, there's actually like an underlying belief system that informs the way that you express yourself. And you may kind of have this surprising kind of realization about how the universe really like things manifest according to certain energies that are present, not necessarily according to what you do or how you handle the situation. That does play into things, and it can sort of steer which path you end up going down. But kind of what's going on is the universe is putting you in a situation where it's going to show you beyond any doubt in your mind that this tendency we've been talking about of holding back is not necessary, and all it does is actually hurt you. Um, so it may put you in a position where you're tempted to do that. And then you may give in to that temptation. You may feel that like, I really want to say something. I really want to bring this up, but I'm not gonna. And then something will occur, some kind of coincidence, some kind of synchronicity that will show you that was unnecessary, and that all you did by holding back was hurt yourself, and you never needed to in the first place. And it's going to be something that it's going to be clear. It'll be an obvious thing that comes up. And it might be kind of frustrating to see, but also kind of liberating at the same time, because you kind of start to realize like, oh, there's really no need for this. Um, so it's kind of hard to get too specific about what may actually happen here, because we're dealing with kind of, with Neptune basically, and with these sort of, mystical, watery sorts of things. And the universe is really good at showing itself to you in ways that you don't expect. Usually, if you whatever you expect, it's going to be something different. Um, yeah, and with Saturn in retrograde, it's like there's just like a redrawing of certain boundaries, redrawing boundaries that were probably set a long time ago, maybe when you were even too young to remember. This could go all the way back to like childhood programming kind of stuff, and now you're with Saturn in retrograde, where those boundaries start to dissolve, especially in Pisces, because Pisces is the sign of boundlessness, boundless consciousness. And so when Saturn in retrograde is in Pisces, it really has to do with dissolving certain boundaries, and then rebuilding them more consciously. And this whole thing about you and your expression and the way that you express yourself, this is just the way that the universe is kind of bringing things to the surface, bringing things to your awareness. It's just, for whatever reason, choosing to use this particular situation to kind of expose itself and kind of give you this sort of situation where you see the kind of magic of the universe and the way that things manifest in this really bizarre and mystical way. You can see it firsthand, and how you can use it in your own life. And when you learn how to kind of ride the waves of the natural laws, so to speak, you start to find that there's no need to compromise anymore. Obviously, you don't have to be like selfish and like, over the top, self-absorbed or anything like that. But this notion of needing to sacrifice your own happiness, or a situation, putting yourself at the bottom position, getting the short end of the straw, whatever, or drawing the short straw, getting the short end of the stick. You insert metaphor here. It's not necessary. You don't need to do that anymore. Maybe you did in the past, but now things have changed. You've changed. The universe is interacting with you in a different way than it used to before. And now it's time to really not be afraid to stick up for yourself and speak up when you feel that you're being sort of treated unfairly. So, anyways, I'm gonna just leave it at that. Be sure to check out my other videos. I've set up, I posted a series of astrology and tarot videos for the month of September. If you haven't checked those out, go take a look at those. Uh, all my information is down below if you want to get into a private reading. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.